Digital Katie.
Oh my God, Digital Katie!
The robots will rise.
Digitally spliced Katie has returned.
Nah, fuck that. I'm organic Katie.
She is.
I'm real deal bullshit Katie. Back with you this week. I have ventured back from the land of the desert. I'm here. I'm queer. And I'm packing steer.
What? Oh my God, what the fuck?
I'm going
to have to start over.
I don't even know what that means.
I'm literally going to have to start over. That was so bad.
Was it?
So bad.
I don't think it's that bad. I also don't know what it means, but I don't think it's bad.
So bad.
I mean, bad. Our whole show is bad.
I don't think so.
The premise of our show is that our show is bad.
Listen.
Right? That's what
we
Trash
have
Talent
a
is
bevy
all about.
of people.
A bevy?
A bevy of people.
Did you get a word of the day calendar?
No, bevy's one of my favorite words.
I have never in 15 years, I have never heard Joe dumbass use the word bevy.
Excuse the fuck out of you.
I've never heard that.
Bevy is one of my favorite words.
Okay.
I also...
Is it your nickname for your friend Bev? Because I have just literally never heard you.
No, bevy. I do love gargantuan.
I have heard you use that one. There's a lot of G's in that word.
And I really love the word travesty.
Okay, I've heard you use all of those except for bevy. I'm not forgetting you.
I have said bevy.
Okay, well, listeners.
I bring it out like...
Listeners, it's your job to fucking weed through the past 20-something episodes of this show and send me every single sound clip where
I
Kenny
did
says
weed
bevy.
through the past 27 episodes last week. I've already done that, actually.
No, you're ruining the illusion.
Actually.
I'm very excited about today's topic, though. Oh, shit. We actually have housekeeping to do. Did you know that?
You have housekeeping to do.
Bitch. Don't talk to me that way. Don't reinforce typical gender roles.
Oh, shit.
So we have housekeeping. Up top, I want to talk about the Haunted Heart Book Club. If you don't know what the Haunted Heart Book Club is, then you're not in the Facebook group. And if you want to be in the book club, you got to be on the Facebook. And that's the way that it goes. So creep on over to facebook.com and type in the Haunted Heart Podcast. You will find our closed group. Request to join it. Several of you did this week, which is awesome, by the way. Thanks. Join our group, and we are going to be starting our book club, I believe, next week. The first book, which was recommended by a couple listeners, actually, is called House of Leaves. I know it's not a new book by any means, but some folks have already read it once. I personally have not. But we're going to read it together, and we're going to fucking discuss it. I'm thinking what we're going to do is once every 2 weeks, so twice a month, I'm going to go live and discuss the book. And maybe Kenny will be with us. I'm not sure.
You know how bad my attention span is.
It's true. It's true. But yeah, so we're gonna chat about the book. If you're interested, join the Facebook group. Details will be coming there, and I'm gonna post a schedule of sorts so that we can have our little goth ducks in a row.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yes,
I'm definitely gonna get the book, and I'm gonna try my best to follow along.
I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna look at it.
I'm gonna try my best to follow along. I have a very short attention span. And I used to read so much when I was little. And then I just I've read enough for a lifetime. And then you got on them
goddamn drugs and that goddamn alcohol and that goddamn sex and rock and roll. And now you don't read anymore.
He had that first marijuana.
He had that first.
The first marijuana tablet.
Yeah.
Yep, it was just downhill from there. No, public school happened.
Yeah. That'll do it. So yes, come join us there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, we haven't done these in one. Am I having a stroke?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, let's try again. we haven't done these in a good while. It's an Instagram shop spotlight.
Yay!
So one of our awesome listeners, his name is Adam. Adam, we love you. Hi, Adam. He actually posted in the Facebook group this awesome Silence of the Lambs shirt that he had. And it was so fucking cool. It had like lotion, like little lotions in baskets and moths and shit on it. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And of course, they didn't have it in the big girl sizes. And by that, I mean they only had it in an extra small.
Mm-hmm. I was highly upset.
However, apparently they restock pretty frequently. But you should check out Creepy Company. It's all lowercase. It's spelled exactly like the fuck you think it's spelled. I'm not spelling it for you because I'm not Kenny. And I believe in you.
You know what? I will come across this podcast table right now.
You can't. You'll knock the candles over.
No, actually, I didn't realize. I actually have bought a shirt
Really?
from them. The pumpkin, the pumpkin witch and like skull button down shirt I have. Yeah, that's from them.
Oh,
I didn't realize that
was
at
from
first
somebody
until because I asked him when we asked him where that shirt was from because it's so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit, that's like I knew them, but so they do stock pretty regularly. You just have to like hit that notification.
Yeah.
So that way, they'll know that it's wanted and then they'll restock it. So I hit that notification many times.
It's very cool. It's a really cool shop. So check them out at Creepy Company on Instagram. I think they're also at Creepy Company on Twitter, and they're on the web too. And you know how to use the internet because it's 2018. And if you don't, Google it.
Well, if they don't know how to use the internet, they probably don't know how to use Google.
Exactly.
So,
how the fuck
but yeah,
are you
you
getting
spent
this podcast if you don't know how to use the internet?
Oh, yeah, true.
What?
So you spent some time in the desert.
I did, away from civilization in a far, far off land that is remote, more wild than tamed, where there is no law.
I loved some of the pictures that you showed me, just the landscapes.
Yes.
So pretty. Cool. I don't know that I could ever do the desert, but
it was cool. It's not what you think. So the heat, like people are always like, oh, it's so hot, but it's not. Like it's totally different. The heat is like more of a dry heat, and so you don't die. So it's cool.
Yeah.
But no, it's awesome. Nevada's a cool state. Go there.
Yes, and I guess is that a segue? Is that a segue, Katie?
I mean, I was fucking trying to make it a segue, but you know what Nevada is really similar to? Australia.
Yay! Australia! If you've been listening to this podcast since its inception, is that right?
Yes, since its immaculate conception.
No, I said inception. Is that right?
Since its immaculately incongruousception.
Words. Yes. We
have
have
a book club.
Yep.
So we can learn some words.
We have shown all the love to Australia. So shout out to our Australian listeners.
Fuck yeah. You guys are awesome. I am in awe of Australia. It is a place where everything wants to kill you. But Australians seem to be like very cheerful and fucking deal with it. I love them.
Well, I just feel like Australians are like just such like badass people that like it's just a part of that. It's just part of the nature.
We've talked about this. Like in your next, like the girl from that, she's fucking amazing. Australian. One of our favorite Australian horror movies, which we're going to talk about a little bit today, Wolf Creek.
Yes.
Fucking amazing film.
Wolf Creek was good. In our first episode, we talked about The Loved Ones. Yeah, The Loved Ones.
I wanted to say The Learners. I'm not sure what that movie's
The
about.
Loved Ones. So, one of my old, so I would just say someone that I used to work with.
Okay.
Was, or is Australian. Damn, use your words correctly tonight. She's Australian, and it was really interesting because she would always, like, we would be working together, and she would always say, like, she'd always have these weird, I'm not gonna say weird, she'd always have these different words and ways of saying things, but she would always expect me to know them. like what she was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, she would use a word like skiting. I think that's what she said. She asked me if I was skiting one day, and I was like,
what does that mean?
I'm not Skyping. You mean Skyping? No, like gloating.
Oh,
skiting.
Skiting,
yeah.
Skiting means gloating.
I think that's what it was. I think that was the word.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Porky Pies is telling lies. I think I mentioned that in the first episode.
That's true, yeah.
Because that crazy bitch.
Yeah.
Are you telling Porky Pies? No. No.
I'm not.
No.
I don't eat pork, babe.
I don't eat
it's
Porky
fine.
Pies.
I don't eat pork. Nope. I don't fuck with that.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But Wolf Creek, one of our favorites. Abso-fucking-lutely.
I truly adore that film. And it's not at all my thing. Like, that,
What do you mean it's not your thing?
Well, no, because I suggested it to somebody on Twitter like a while back, right? And I was like, you have to watch. They were looking for horror movie recommendations. And that's always one that I give because it's one that, like, I feel like, so simultaneously more people have seen that film than I think have seen that film. And also nobody knows that film. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, cool. So glad we're on the same page. I recommended it to somebody on Twitter and she watched it for a bit, but she was just like, that wasn't really my thing. Like, I don't really go in for the whole like torture movie thing. And I don't know. I guess it technically is a torture movie, but I've never thought about that movie as a torture film, like as something like Hostel or, you know.
You don't think?
I mean, it is, but also, I guess the difference for me is that in something like Hostel, I feel like they rely a lot on like what they're doing to people being the terrifying part. You know what I mean? Like they're pulling teeth or something like that, where they try to think of like the worst possible thing that they could do, and the action is centered on that thing. Whereas in Wolf Creek, just the character of Mick, like he
just
is
him
the fucking
is
right.
frightening.
He wouldn't. He doesn't even have to do anything. Like it doesn't. The whole like our head on a stick. Like that whole thing is not. The movie isn't about that. It's about him and how fucking terrifying he is.
Yeah.
And all of the torture is stemming from, look at this fucking terrifying dude.
Well, I don't remember there being a lot of like even gratuitous. Like, I mean, yes, there's gore in it.
Yeah,
there's gore and violence in it, obviously,
For
but
sure.
not on a level like Hostel where it's like gore for the sake of gore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's not about the gore. It's more about the situation and how fucking terrifying it is.
Yeah, because he himself is just fucking terrifying. Unfortunately, though, the sequel was not as good as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Was not a fan.
Yeah. I mean, the first one's incredible. I actually made a GIF of, I guess it was a meme. I guess this was back in the early days of the meme when I was in college. And a professor did some crazy bullshit, like moved up a deadline or something. And so I got a picture of Mick, and he was like, it was the picture of them when they're sitting around the fire, and like the guy corrects them or whatever.
And he just gives them that
and he just gives them the chin up look.
Chin up, like death stare.
Chin up, severely underlit, like stare. Fucking incredible. So I think I used that picture and I put something like, oh, I remember what it was. No, it wasn't a professor. I sent it to the registrar because all of a sudden, like right before I was going to graduate, they dropped like a bunch of transfer credits that I was going to have. So I literally sent it to the registrar and I was like, it's 2 weeks before graduation and you're going to drop my transfer credits? Tell me more about that. Needless to say, the situation was resolved.
They were fucking terrified.
Of course they fucking were. And were they wrong?
Nope, not at all.
Not at all.
But yeah, no, it just goes to show that, like, do not trust people.
Ever. Literally none.
If you were backpacking, especially if you were backpacking
Just
out in
don't
the
backpack.
middle of fucking nowhere,
Just don't do it.
do not accept any help from anybody.
Stay in your
Ever.
fucking house, babe.
Ever. But one of the things that really sort of, well, I guess it always creeps you out when you see this in a movie, but, you know, they say that it was based on true events.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
How interesting. What if you had someone very close to you who knew a lot about true crime, who was also preparing for an episode on Australia?
Bitch, is that what you brought to the table
Who
today?
came to tell you everything about the true story behind Wolf Creek.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Did I steal your thunder? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, you laid the segue for me. I think it works.
Shit. Okay.
You
awesome.
just led me right. It was beautiful. I'm not sure if you were leading or I were leading.
That's the art of it.
Like, we were dancing.
We talk about the horror movie, and then we lead into your forte.
And then we just lead right into fucking real life horror.
But no, that's one of the things, like, you always see that, and it's like, based on true events. But I remember early 2000s? Was that? Am I reading?
When it happened?
Yeah.
Sort of. So we can get into the case if you want to.
No. The movie was in 2000. The movie was in 2005.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie was 2005.
Yeah.
So we can dig into the case.
Yeah, I'm ready to get into this fucking case.
So Mick, our beloved Mick, right, who is fucking phenomenal, by the way. The actor, I know nothing about the actor.
His laugh. You remember his laugh? He's like,
yeah. He was incredible. I fucking want to watch this movie again right after this. But the actor who plays him was incredible. Looks nothing like the real murderer. So the real...
Really? What does the freaking real murderer look like? That upsets me.
He gives me, like, weird, too hairy... like could be attractive, but there's just so much hair, and also like Italian, even though he's not Italian, like potentially. And I don't know. I'll let you see him. He has this weird handlebar mustache thing that goes into a goatee. That's just not really the best.
I could see where there could be some like bit of like he's got good bone structure.
He does. Like
great bone structure. I'm not mad at the handlebar mustache.
I'm a little upset. I feel like he's gonna bust my door down and be like, "Ma'am, the police are here on a noise ordinance."
He looks like he would be like that's the handlebar mustache of someone who would like be in the YMCA, the policeman for the YMCA.
Yeah. It's
a little.
I'm seeing police officers.
It's a little leather bar realness.
It is. It's very. I think that's why I'm uncomfortable with it.
And I think that's why I'm not mad at
Personal. I mean, I'm. Well, let me tell you what he fucking did, and then maybe you'll be mad at yourself, like me, and feel upset about it. So, his name is Ivan Milat.
Ivan.
I
like Mick better.
It's true. It's true. I think that they were maybe playing to the back of the crowd on Mick, because Mick just sounds so fucking Australian bumpkin-y to me. Anyway, not saying that Australians are bumpkins. Please don't fucking come find me and kill me. I love you people. You people are phenomenal to travel with, and I'm in awe of you. And I would marry probably every single Australian woman. Just saying. So back to Ivan.
Yes, Ivan
and his trouble. So Ivan Milat is more commonly known as the backpacker murderer or the backpack killer. He was convicted of 7 murders of backpackers in Australia. So he was born December 1944 in Guildford, Australia. I have no fucking idea where that is. To an immigrant family from Yugoslavia.
Okay.
So apparently he was kind of rough. Growing up, from the age of 17, he was constantly in trouble with the police, but it didn't really, but nothing that he did up to that point ever came close to the 7 murders that he was convicted of in 1996. So this went down in the 90s.
Oh, so, all right, yeah, like later 90s,
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then like 10 years later, they made the movie, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So... convicted of 7. Remember that. That's important. So he was born in 1944. He was one of 14 children.
Damn.
Yes. Apparently, growing up, his life was really rural, and his family was really insular, meaning that they kept to themselves. That's your word of the day on the Haunted Heart podcast.
This is the Haunted Heart Dictionary.
The Haunted Dictionary?
The Haunted Dictionary, where we just spout off. We should just do a whole episode of just spouting off random words.
That sounds very Twin Peaks. I'm into it. So Milat's family was they kept to themselves. And there's actually not a lot that's known about his upbringing because the family was so close-knit and so, like, hush-hush. However, his brother, Boris, I love these names. His brother Boris said that he exhibited psychopathic tendencies from very early on, but other family members have spoken out and said that that's not the case. Apparently, he had a fascination for hunting and guns from a very young age, and his parents were super strict. And he and his brothers had a reputation for kind of causing trouble in the neighborhood, and the police were well acquainted with, I guess, the way to the Malott's household as the kids got older.
Honey, sounds like he could be from Southern Virginia.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You might be onto something. So he committed car thefts and breaking and entering and armed robberies from the age of 17 onward. However, in 1971, he had his first big run-in with the law when he was put on trial for the alleged rape of 2 female hitchhikers.
Ooh, no.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yep.
Don't do that ever.
So, I mean, but that was like the 70s and everybody
Raping, don't do that. Also,
fucking,
don't hitchhike either.
Don't ever fucking rape anybody. And if you do, fuck you. I'm going to find you. I'm going to hurt you. In a court of law. Of course.
She says, as she stares off into the distance with the candlelight burning slowly in her eyes.
You know, in the court of law. Anyway, this piece of shit apparently had been armed with a knife when he came across these 2 female hitchhikers, and they actually testified against him, but he was acquitted on the rape charges when the prosecution failed to make a convincing case against him.
What the fuck does that even mean?
I don't know. I would think that a convincing case would maybe consist of 2 fucking female hitchhikers who were present and testifying against him. But I guess that's not enough to make a case, is it?
Oh my God.
Anywho, 1971.
1971?
Yep, that was 1971. So he was acquitted, and that just kind of went away. Then we'll actually come back for that one. So we're gonna come back. So we're gonna jump ahead a little bit. This story's kind of hard to tell because it's a little bit all over the place. So that was 1971, and he was acquitted. Nothing happened. So in 1992, in the I'm going to fuck up every single pronunciation of every single place in Australia. I'm really sorry. Belangalo State Forest, near an area known as Executioner's Drop, there were some exercise enthusiasts who were out for their weekly run.
Don't do that either.
Yeah.
Don't run.
You know how we feel about this. Unless something's chasing you, then run.
I mean, definitely run. But like, just no. Stay at home.
Sleep in.
Fuck, yeah, like sleep in. Like,
sleep in, fuck, eat breakfast.
Yeah, eat some
fuck
food.
Again.
Watch some fucking Netflix. Like, don't go out and jog. Ugh.
Don't discover crimes so we can solve them. No. So this is September 1992. You have these incredible hobby joggers who are out on their weekly run.
Hobby joggers?
Hobby joggers. Hobby joggers.
Hobby joggers.
You remember hobby joggers. We talked about them before.
So, yeah. No. I'm not a hobby jogger.
Okay, we have to be serious. The murder part happens now.
Okay.
So, September 1992. These joggers are out. They're on their weekly run. They're being super healthy. They're by Executioner's Drop. And they stumble upon the bodies of British backpackers Caroline Clark and Joanne Walters. Both girls had been missing since May of that year of 1992 when they had teamed up to look for work south of Sydney. Joanne Walters had been stabbed repeatedly, including one wound to her spine that it was believed might have paralyzed her, while the killer continued his vicious attack.
Holy fuck, that's what he did. That's what they did in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what they showed in the movie, because he came in and he had that fucking hunter's knife, and he like got her like right in a
between the spine,
specific
between
place.
two vertebrae. Yep.
Yeah, and it just paralyzed him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my God.
So the zipper of Joanne Walters' jeans had been undone, but the top button was still fastened, as if she had been partially stripped and then sexually assaulted, but then buttoned up hastily after the attack. Her remains were too badly decomposed to establish for 100% whether a sexual attack had actually occurred or not. So that part is kind of suspected, I guess, but can't be confirmed because of decomposition.
Got it.
So Caroline Clark was also stabbed repeatedly. She had been shot in the head 10 times.
Holy fuck.
10 times. She also had a similar spinal wound to Walters. 4 bullets that remained inside her skull were preserved for forensic analysis, and detectives were confident that they could track the weapon responsible for her murder from those bullets. Because, of course, the 90s, the early 90s, that's when forensics is just starting to kind of become a big deal. Right? So, near the bodies, they found a primitive brick fireplace, and there were a bunch of cigarette butts and spent .22 caliber cartridge cases. So it looked like the killer had kind of hung out there for a while. People kind of started to get a little bit paranoid, and a forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Rod Milton, was brought onto the case. But despite all the effort that was put into this, the police kind of didn't have a lot of leads to go on. So they made little progress over the next couple weeks.
Well, I suppose it was hard, because the bodies had already been, kind of decomposed, and you don't really, it's out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you wouldn't
Well, I guess
have,
it's not out in the middle of nowhere, because you do have, fucking hobby joggers jogging around. So it's not in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but it's my belief that most hobby joggers, literally go out and jog in the middle of nowhere.
With headphones in and a blindfold on.
Yeah.
So this guy, Rod Milton, he, the forensic psychiatrist, he comes on to the case and concludes that the killer was in his mid-30s with a history of aggression and was familiar with the surrounding terrain and motivated by the pleasure of inflicting pain. He didn't believe that a serial killer was responsible, although he thought that it was possible that the killer might have an assistant. So that was September 1992. In October of 1993, a second set of bodies were found. Again, they were very badly decomposed, but the remains that were found were those of Australian nationals James Gibson and Deborah Everest, who had gone missing in 1989.
Holy hell.
So these people had been missing before actually Caroline Clark and Joanne Walters had been missing. So interestingly, James Gibson's zipper was intact. It was open, but the top button was fastened yet again, very similar to Joanne Walters. Postmortem examinations again revealed the paralyzing spinal knife wounds inflicted in a similar manner to Clark as they were with Clark and Walters.
Do you think we might have a serial killer now?
I think we might have a serial killer.
I mean, I'm not a forensic analyst or any of that, but I do host a paranormal / true crime podcast.
We do run a shitty podcast, so we might.
So I think my credentials speak for themselves.
Can I get a card?
When I say we might have a fucking serial killer.
Yep. So obviously the police are shitting bricks. The superintendent of police his name is Clive Small, by the way. He is shitting bricks. So he sets up this huge task force to basically do a massive manual search of the Belanglo forest area. And despite the massive search, it was almost a month before the next victim was found on November 1st. This victim was German national Simone Schmidl, and she had been missing since January of 1991, when she was planning to hitchhike south from Sydney in search of work again. The fireplace was also set up next to her body, and discarded .22 shells were close by. So there was no doubt that she had fallen victim to the same killer, and she also showed the trademark spinal injury. The paralyzing spinal injury. So 3 days later, on November 4th, the search yielded its final 2 victims, who were German nationals Anja Hapschild and her boyfriend Gabor Neubauer. And they had been missing since just after Christmas of 1991. The boy's jeans were unzipped, but the button was fastened, and he had been strangled as well as shot several times The recovered bullets were a perfect match to the bullets that were recovered from Carolyn Clark, the 4 bullets that were recovered from her. The girl's body was missing its skull completely, which appeared to have been severed.
Missing its skull?
Yeah, the girl's body was missing its skull completely.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
she was decomposed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So finally, after we found how many bodies? Superintendent Small was forced to admit to the media that the police were looking for a serial killer.
Oh, great.
Okay,
wonderful.
Good. Yep. Thanks for letting us know.
Thank you, Captain Fucking Obvious.
So I don't want to be too hard on them because I'm not out here hunting down serial killers. Like, let's be honest. So, thanks for doing the fucking good work.
You literally had to do a search for more bodies because you kept finding bodies. Again,
the Lord says it's not for us to judge.
Well, it's a good thing. No, I'm not.
So all of the methods employed by the killer, including beating, strangulation, shooting, stabbing, and decapitation, as well as the sexual assault of both male and female victims, made it really hard to narrow down the suspect list, right? Because if there's one thing that we know about serial killers is that they have their things. And even though this guy seems to be very much motivated by the whole masochistic thing, he has a lot going on, right? So police got really, really bogged down by the sheer volume of calls from citizens who were trying to give whatever information they possibly could. However, they actually amazingly kind of semi-quickly were able to kind of zero in on the Milat family and Ivan Milat in particular, although they didn't have any firm evidence for him. They kind of looked at, I guess, people in the area who had been, going back to the forensic psychiatrist, what was his name? Dr. Rod Milton, what he was talking about the killer being in his 30s, having a history of violence, being very aggressive. And they kind of looked at things like that. And Ivan's 1971 rape case kind of sent off a red flag for them. And then they got to talking to people and independent reports from people calling in. He seemed like he could be their guy, right? Mm-hmm.
So, like, people that knew him.
Right. So people that knew him were like, kind of fucked up.
This guy might want to check his ass out. That's all I'm saying. Hey, Ivan.
But a lot of that happened. That happens sometimes. We all have that one person that's kind of like, that one motherfucker that you wouldn't be surprised if they popped off and killed somebody. You know what I mean? We all have that one person.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
You might be that one person for me. So,
listen, police, you might want to check me out. No.
That's not... Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the reports that were coming in about Ivan were not necessarily unique. However, there was one linchpin in this case, and if you listen to... if you know this case, then you know where we're headed. Back in 1990, now remember the first bodies were found in 1992. Mm-hmm. 2 years before the first bodies were found, in January 1990, specifically January 25th, Ivan Milat picked up British backpacker Paul Onions, who was hitchhiking south from Sydney in search of work, similarly to the victims that we just talked about. Milat was initially super friendly. He introduced himself as Bill, but he asked a lot of personal questions, and questions about Paul's plans that he found particularly unnerving. And he said that he became concerned for his safety when Milat began ranting, making racist and xenophobic remarks. When Milat pulled his car to the side of the road, Paul Onions tried to get out, but Milat pulled a revolver and told him to put on his seatbelt. At which point, Paul Onions makes the fucking hero's choice and just fucking bolts like a motherfucker for safety. He runs, he leaves his backpack, he leaves all his shit, he leaves every single possession that he had on him and his passport. He did not give a fuck. And he bolts.
Wise.
Despite the fact that Ivan Milat had threatened that he would shoot him, Paul Onions managed to get away and flag down a passing car, which took him to the nearest police station so that he could report the incident, which he did. He returned to Sydney, stopped right on by the embassy to replace his passport, and eventually returned to the fucking UK.
Where he was safe and not... Yeah, no, that...
Well, we can get into UK murders later, but...
I mean, he was away from this fucking Wolf Creek motherfucker.
True. That's true. So,
fucking spine cutting, damn... No.
Yes, so Paul Onions manages to get away because he runs like hell. And in April of 1994, Paul decides he's going to contact Australian authorities on the Milat case. So he basically contacts authorities. He gives them all the information about his attack and his encounter with Ivan Milat in 1990. And that was actually corroborated by an independent call from a woman who had rescued Onions, who's the person who was driving the car that had driven him to the police station. And the police recognized that clearly they were dealing with the same guy.
Yeah.
So Paul Onions fucking... I can't even imagine. He flew back from the UK to Australia, where he identified Milat from a video lineup, which basically gave police the information that they needed, or the justification that they needed to seek a warrant, a search warrant for his properties, for the Milat family properties. So they carried out a raid in May of 1994, which revealed a huge amount of evidence linking Milat to the crimes that were committed in... Well, the crimes that we discussed, the victims that we discussed, and also several other victims who are still unknown to this day. So they found personal effects from tons of victims. They found clothing, sleeping bags, camping equipment, as well as massive amounts of ammunition. They found parts of disassembled weapons, including a .22 caliber rifle.
Ooh,
and you'll recall that we
gotcha.
saw .22 caliber shells at every scene. He also had a long, curved cavalry sword, suitable for the beheading of Anja Habshid, which was found locked in a cupboard in the home of Milat's mother. So clearly they found all this shit, and they were like...
It might be him.
You gotta go to jail, babe. So they arrest him, take him into custody for questioning, where he was super evasive and very uncooperative. He was initially charged with the attack on Paul Onions, and then he subsequently was charged with the 7 murders once the ballistic evidence matched his .22 caliber rifle to the attacks. He actually chose, I thought this was interesting, he chose to hire the same lawyer who represented him in 1971 for his rape trial, but he fired him when that lawyer advised that Milat plead guilty.
I mean, bruh.
So,
you might want to plead guilty.
Yeah. So he was charged with all 7 murders and the attack on Paul Onions, and he chose to plead not guilty to all of the charges. The case took about 12 weeks. However, the case took 15 weeks. But in July of 1996, the jury returned after 3 days of deliberation and found him guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment for the attack on Paul Onions and 7 consecutive life sentences for each one of his murders. When he was asked if he had any comment, Milat continued to protest his innocence.
So I wonder if he still claims his innocence to this day. Is he still alive?
He is still alive.
Fuck.
Hopefully not fucking listening.
Fuck. He is our Australian listener.
Oh my God, I would be so fucking disappointed. God damn it, I would be so mad.
Just sitting in a jail somewhere, just listening to our podcast.
No, so there were some very interesting developments after he actually was put in jail. It's kind of ridiculous. On January 26th of 2009, he cut off his little finger with a plastic knife with the intention of mailing it to the high court.
What the fuck?
Fucking...
First of all, how the hell do you cut off your finger with a plastic knife?
I really feel like a Hallmark card would make a much better impression.
I mean, damn.
Or they have potatograms. You could send a potatogram instead.
Or just write a letter.
I mean, if you're mad, there's that website that like you can send a bag of dicks to somebody. There are really lots of options instead of cutting off your own pinky finger with a plastic knife. However, they took him to the hospital under high security. And when he was returned to prison, they took him to the hospital so that they could try to put his pinky back on. And they were like, nope, sorry, can't do that. So they returned him to prison.
Like, nope, sorry, we're done. And just like the doctor throws the pinky over his shoulder into the trash bin.
Yeah. Apparently he had like a history of this because in 2001 he had swallowed razor blades and staples and like a bunch of other metal shit.
No, well, I mean, okay, but
no,
fucking crazy.
Yeah. And then in 2011, I know you're gonna love this one. In 2011, he went on a hunger strike and he lost 25 kilograms. And an unsuccessful attempt to be given a PlayStation. So
wait, he doesn't even seem like the type of guy who would be into PlayStation. Like what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? I would say he's maybe not all there.
Seems weird. Maybe he wanted to play the new like Bass Pro Shops game or whatever. I don't know any hunting games.
I don't know if
the fucking new Cabela's game.
Maybe
like shooting wildlife and stuff, or hitchhikers. Fucking awful.
Maybe he was into like Animal Crossing.
So another interesting development in 2012, his great nephew, whose name is Matthew Malott, and his friend, the nephew's friend, Cohen Klein, both age 19, were sentenced to 43 years and 32 years respectively in prison for murdering David Auchterone on his 17th birthday with an axe at the Belangolo State Forest in 2010.
So that was his nephew.
His great-nephew.
Great-nephew.
And his friend.
So it was his great-nephew and his great-nephew's friend.
Yes.
And they killed somebody in the same place where his great-uncle had been doing. Where they found all those bodies,
yep. Apparently, Matthew, the great-nephew, struck David Auchterone with the double-headed axe as Cohen Klein recorded the attack with a mobile phone.
I hate that shit. Like, I mean, it's murder. I hate it in general, but like that is some. We discussed this on our personalities thing about the whole empathy thing with me and my personality, and that just is like the epitome of like zero empathy is to sit and record something like that.
Yeah.
Like I fucking hate you.
It's fucked up, dude. I mean, clearly, whatever jury was in that trial agreed with you because they sentenced that motherfucker to 32 years in prison. And the guy who actually did the murdering,
you know what I would do?
Got 43 years.
I'd put I would record him live every day.
Live stream his ass in prison.
I would live stream
never
his
a private
ass
moment
in prison.
again.
Never a private moment, and he would be forced to sit and watch his own self. He would have a TV screen, and that's all.
So it would be like Hannibal Lecter style, except it would just be him watching himself.
Yeah, he would be watching himself in a cell, rot, barely kept alive. Damn. All right, I'm all right. I promise really I'm not twisted.
You really deep in there. You really. Yikes. So yes, 2005. Now that was 5 years before his grandnephew murdered that guy in Belangolo State Forest. Is when. Wolf Creek came out. 05.
Wait.
So the murders happened in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
he was sentenced in 96.
Yeah.
And then in 2005, Wolf Creek comes out. Mm-hmm. And then in 2010, his great nephew and his friend murder somebody in a copycat killing.
Fucking copycat motherfucker. Like, yeah. No.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate. And then the year after his great nephew was sentenced, Wolf Creek 2 came out in 2013. It's not good. So that's the crazy, wild, fucked up story of Ivan Malott and of the incredible hero of our story, Paul Onions, who got away from that motherfucker and trusted his instincts. Ran far and wide and then circled back on that ass 6 years later and said, fuck you. Actually, I think it was 4 years later.
He tapped back on that ass, honey. He said,
sure did.
Oh, you thought I was gone? Guess again, bitch.
He said, oh, hi.
Oh, hi, remember me?
Oh, hi.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, hearing all of this to see the relation between, like, the actual events and then the film.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it seemed to be pretty, like, for the most part, like, they hit on the key elements of the case in the movie.
I mean, clearly it was dramatized, but, like, there was more about the movie. Because when I found the case, I was like, oh, so the movie's probably, like, 99% fiction, right? And it's just loosely based off of this case. But there actually were some big moments.
What the fuck was he doing shooting that one girl in the head so many times for?
10 times. Well, it's actually thought by some authorities that he may have used her skull for target practice.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's really, really fucked up. That's one of the things that is thought about the case. It's not necessarily confirmed, but a couple sources had reported that, actually.
Oh my God.
It's really bad.
Ugh. That's fucked up.
Yep. That's
insane. But yes, because in the movie, like, when they realized, like, how up Wolf Creek they were, they found all of the, like, sleeping bags, camcorders, like, all of that stuff that he had collected. Yeah.
And he really did do that.
And then the whole, like, cutting of the spine thing.
Yep. That to me is the scariest part. And it's the most horrifying part of the movie too, is that, like, description of, like, when there's somebody who's clearly off their fucking rocker, and, like, the idea that somebody could incapacitate you to that level where you're paralyzed, but then, like, you still are present for, I just can't imagine. It just.
Yeah, I mean, that would like, obviously he learned that skill from, like, hunting.
Yeah.
So he was very much he's very much a predator in that sense. So it's like, because I remember in the movie, he literally just, like, the character literally just snuck up behind that girl and, like, just nicked her one good time.
Yep.
In the right, like, the perfect spot, and then bam, on the floor.
Yep.
And then, like, from that moment on, and you can't even, like, blame the character half the time, like, after that. So it's, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty rough.
Now, did that happen? I'm trying to think, because in Wolf Creek, I know he picked the people up, the characters next to a crater.
In Wolf Creek, they clearly, like, simplify the story, because this motherfucker jumps around like crazy.
Yeah.
Back and forth in time. It was kind of hard to structure it because of that. But in Wolf Creek, the premise is that they're all traveling together. And I think it's, like, 2 couples. And there may even be, like,
2 girls and a guy.
Yeah, 2 girls and a guy. So there's 3 of them. And they're all traveling together. And he picks them up. I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but, like, he basically orchestrates picking them up due to, like, car trouble or whatever, and then takes them back to his compound.
Yeah, no.
So they're not in the state forest and yada yada yada.
Well, they were traveling, and they had visited the Wolf Creek crater, which is a real spot.
Oh, okay. I wonder how close that is to the forest.
I don't know. I know that is a real location, the Wolf Creek crater. And I don't know. I guess, like, car trouble, car broke down, and then, he just, I guess, just sees them, stumbles upon them. No, in the movie, no, he orchestrated saw them. No.
But I didn't want to give that away because it's one of my favorite fucking parts.
I mean, the movie's been out since 2005.
Okay, so they go to a gas station and they're just, like, fucking chilling, and there's this motherfucker in the background all blurry and shit. He's in the fucking background and not the foreground. But I fucking clocked his ass.
So when they went
into the gas station to, like, sit down and eat or whatever, like, he was outside just chilling. And then later they go to the crater, and then their car doesn't work anymore, and it's getting dark, and he just fucking shows up out of the blue like, all right, hi. And that's my That's my impression. It's great. And then he offers to be a kind stranger and tow them back to his fucking impound, which is surrounded by a large fence. But, you know, clearly he fucking caused the car trouble because he fucked with their car at the gas station.
Yeah.
Which is why I like to eat lunch on top of my car whenever I'm traveling anywhere. I just go through the drive-thru and then I park on the other side in the drive-thru, get out of the vehicle, sit on top of it, and have a nice meal.
Why?
Ain't nobody fucking with my shit.
Yeah, but if you're in the fucking car, who's fucking with your shit? Why would you get out of your car?
I don't know, man.
That makes no sense.
Sometimes you want to, like, enjoy the
No, I'm not
outdoors.
saying it's fucking summertime. Who's sitting on the fucking hood of a goddamn car? Your fucking ass is going to be fried.
I enjoy it.
No, okay. You sit on the fucking hood of your goddamn car. I'm going to be pulled off to the side. Doors locked, windows up. Doors locked, windows up, fully tinted. Sunglasses on.
Actually, just
AC
don't fucking stop
up.
at gas stations. Just get all the gas that you need for the trip before you leave town.
Get a Tesla.
Just get all the gas, put it all in the car. There you go.
Yeah. So, I guess that sort of segues a little bit into my topic now, just talking about the Wolf Creek crater.
You're going to talk about a crater?
No, I'm not talking about a crater. I'm not talking about a crater. But what's interesting in my research, like I sort of dug a little bit into the history of the indigenous people of Australia.
Okay.
And what sort of connected it for me was the crater itself. So the local indigenous people sort of refer to the crater as Candy Malal. Mm-hmm. And there are multiple like dreaming stories about the formation of the crater. So in my research, I came across a lot of information around what the indigenous people call the dream time, which was really, really fascinating. And it deals a lot with, or it talks about how the world was made, how everything came to be, and it's really beautiful and very, very interesting, and it inspires a lot of their artwork as well. Mm-hmm. And if you've never like researched like the art like from the indigenous people, it is absolutely beautiful.
Oh yeah,
very colorful, very beautiful. Love the style. It's very symbolic of the land and their spiritualism with this dreamtime world. But
it's very esoteric. I stumbled across some of it when I was kind of looking into it. There's so many fucking good topics to talk about when it comes to Australia.
Yeah.
But I was checking out a little bit of their, you know, mythology and their system of spiritualism, and a lot of the art was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah. So that kind of led me to research a little bit into some of the customs and some of the culture. And a lot of it is, again, a lot of us don't know the majority of, you know, what goes on.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like when we talked about voodoo, where like it's a closed society. So if we're not part of it, you know, obviously we're fucking podcasters
we're
in
DC.
We are about as far removed as you could get from the Aboriginal population. So
Americans, sitting over here thousands of miles away from.
Look, we just like your art and your fucking.
No, and I will say, if you're interested, definitely research Gary Foley. He is an activist for a lot of the indigenous rights movements that they've got going on over there, and has been active. And I've watching a couple of his videos is like that he has on YouTube and stuff like that was really cool. So definitely check that out. But what was interesting is that in the indigenous culture, they don't really believe in. They don't think that death is natural.
Really? Huh.
Yes. So it's a very traditional belief that there is no such thing as natural death, and that all deaths are considered to be the result of evil spirits or spells, usually influenced by an enemy.
Huh.
Yes. So often a dying person will whisper the name of the person they think caused their death. If the identity of the guilty person is not known, a quote-unquote magic man will watch for a sign, such as like an animal burrow leading from the grave that sort of directs them to where the guilty party is at. And it can take years for them to identify like who they think was the cause of the death. But eventually it was always discovered. The practice was that they have a ritual executioner called a kerdaicha. So this was usually, like I said, this was the person that essentially sought out revenge
for the dead person.
Was like avenging the dead. So the elders like of the mob that the deceased belonged to, they would hold a meeting and decide a suitable punishment. And again, the kerdaicha may or may not have been used to avenge that person. But it leads into a specific topic of magic called bone pointing, which was really interesting. So another name for the kerdaicha, actually, like Europeans refer to the term kerdaicha as the shoes that they wear, which is really interesting because their shoes are made from feathers, like matted feathers mixed with human blood, in such a way that the blood cannot be detected, and even a close examination does not reveal like really how the feathers remain stuck together. And the upper surface is covered with a net woven from human hair. And it's completely taboo for any woman or child to see them, and when not in use are kept wrapped in kangaroo skin or hidden in a sacred place. But essentially the kerdaicha would wear these shoes when they were searching for the guilty party. The guilty party, yes.
Interesting.
And before the shoes can be worn, a secret ritual has to be performed on them. A stone is heated red hot and then placed against the ball of the small toe. Once the joint has softened, the toe is jerked outwards, dislocating the joint.
Ow.
And although the ritual has never been observed, examinations of the feet of men who claimed to have been kerdaicha have all shown the same peculiar dislocation.
So, sorry, before they put your shoe on, like, I'm thinking like Cinderella glass slipper, does it fit, right?
Yeah. No.
Except the prince fucking presses a hot ass rock to your foot and then rips your pinky toe out of socket.
Toe. Yeah.
And then shoves your shoe on.
Yeah. And so,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And additionally, the genuine...
I don't think I would bookmark that one on Indeed.com. I don't think I would.
I've had my fucking toe, like, dislocated, and it is not fun.
Ooh. No, it doesn't sound fun.
No. It is not fun. But yes, so the kerdaicha shoe has a small opening on one side where, like, the dislocated little toe can be inserted. So it has its own, like, little...
like a cradle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very interesting. But
was there anything in your reading with regard to like the significance of the pinky toe being?
Not that I could find.
Yeah. It's probably
like I said, it's a part of the whole
like
secret things that you really probably won't.
Yeah.
You probably won't know. Again, because none of it had ever been like actually witnessed. They just had the examples from these men who had claimed to be kerdaicha.
Right.
So, but again, going back into the bone pointing aspect of it, so the expectation that death would result from having a bone pointed at a victim is not something that is unheard of. So there are other similar rituals that cause death that have been recorded. It's kind of like you would see the victims, they would become listless, very apathetic. They would refuse food, water. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like almost like being cursed to die. So it happens gradually. So when a victim survived, this bone pointing, it is assumed that the ritual was faulty. And this phenomenon is often referred to today as psychosomatic.
Yeah.
And that death is caused by an emotional response, often fear, to some suggested outside force. And it's also kind of known as voodoo death. Mm-hmm. And so because this is from a specific religion, the medical establishment has suggested that like self-willed death or bone pointing syndrome is the more appropriate term. And in Australia, the practice is still common enough that hospitals and nursing staff are actually trained to manage illness caused by quote unquote bad spirits and bone pointing, which is pretty cool if you ask me.
That's really cool, actually.
Like, I'm a fan. I mean, I just think that that's awesome that I just think that it's awesome that they do that. So yeah, okay. So there's actually an example. So there was one guy. So in 1953, a dying indigenous man named Kinjinka was flown from Arnhem Land in Australia's Northern Territory to a hospital in Darwin. Tests revealed he had not been poisoned, injured, nor was he suffering from any sort of injury. Yet the man was most definitely dying. And after 4 days of agony spent in the hospital, Kinjinka died on the 5th. And it was said he died of bone pointing. And again, like we've discussed, bone pointing is the method of execution. And it's said to leave no trace and never fails to kill its victim unless the ritual was performed faulty. Incorrectly.
Right.
The bone that is used in the curse is either made from human bone, kangaroo, or sometimes occasionally wood.
Okay.
So the shape of the killing bone varies from tribe to tribe. The lengths can be from 6 to 9 inches, and they look kind of like a long needle. And at the rounded end, a piece of hair is attached through the hole and glued into place with a type of resin from a specific bush that can be found. And so before it can be used, this bone is charged with a powerful psychic energy in a ritual, again, that we don't know. It's kept secret from anyone who's not a member of that specific tribe.
Right.
And the bone is then given to the Kardaicha, who then uses that to like go out and hunt the person if they had fled. Again, they put on the shoes. That's all a part of the ritual. Sometimes the Kardaicha would hunt in pairs of 3s and would pursue their victims for years, never giving up until they caught them. Once the man is caught, one of the Kardaicha goes down onto one knee and points the bone. The victim is said to be frozen with fear and stays to hear the curse, which is a brief, piercing chant. Then he and his fellow hunters return to the village, and the bone is ritually burned. And the condemned may live for several days or weeks, but going back to that whole psychosomatic thing, because he believes so strongly in the curse that has been uttered, he dies from it because of that belief. So in a way, the bone is seen as like a spear of thought, which pierces the victim when the bone is pointed at him. Almost like an actual spear would be. So it's like so much intention and power put into it and just sent through the victim, essentially. And the man, Kinjinka, had actually been accused of an incestuous relationship. And instead of going to his trial, he fled the village. And the hunters found him and cursed. And it is said that that is why he died.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there's a couple other of related rituals that all sort of go back to this bone pointing thing. Sometimes the bone is soaked in liquid from a decomposing corpse, and when completed, the bone is placed near a fire until the paste that it's put on it from a type of fish that they use to coat it. When that melts off from the and the victim is supposed to die. And And sometimes they would just scratch him with the bone, which would more than likely cause infection to cause him to die because it had rotted, nasty things on it.
Yeah, corpse juice.
Yeah,
corpse aid.
Not good. Yeah. Sometimes they would actually even use them to just like actually fucking kill somebody.
Yeah.
So
like
they would, like you might have had
Stab.
a couple of Kardaicha who were like, I'm not trying to wait for this. Like, so, a more direct method that has been researched is they would take the bone, like again from the kangaroo or emu or whatever, and they would split it in half. And they would sharpen one end of it to an extremely fine point. And the shape of the bone forms like a semicircular point, kind of similar to like a pin. So one person would hold the victim down, sometimes while they slept, and while the other one inserted the bone into the hollow of the neck behind the collarbone and would push it down until it pierces the heart. When the bone is withdrawn, it leaves a very small semicircular flap of flesh, which is then pressed down to seal the wound. And the wound does not bleed and is almost invisible. And in 1884, 2 such murders were recorded near Adelaide. Is that how you say that?
I think so, yeah.
Adelaide. And in the early 1970s, a 6,000-year-old skeleton was unearthed in South Australia that had a similar bone still in position within the rib cage. Oh. Yeah, so the burial was apparently was of a young person of like pretty high status, so they don't know why that occurred, but
interesting.
Yeah, that's some like
ancient
like bone magic going on there, which I thought was just like I thought that was really interesting. I like just the idea that these people are or these Kardaicha men are so dedicated that they would literally hunt. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the It Follows. You know what I mean? Like, they are
that
like,
no matter what, they're like relentlessly coming.
Like
for
they
you.
are relentlessly gonna come
it.
for you.
Yeah.
And then like the moment they find you, they just point this fucking bone at you, and like that would freak me the fuck out.
For sure. Oh yeah.
And what sucks about it is that, it's not like this was a fair trial. Like,
right.
It was like, what sign? Like,
what if they wrong, fam? What if you just had some real good deliciousness in your cabin, and so the animals burrowed to your cabin?
Right.
See, that would fuck me up because I'm about that good food.
Right. I'm just saying. And again, like I said, this is all... like I said, there's a lot that we don't know. I'm not trying to overstep.
I'm sure there's a ton that we don't know. I'm sure there's a ton that's like misinterpreted and stuff because there's a lot of pieces we don't have. So
yeah. So I, again, utmost respect to the Indigenous people of Australia, and
come tell us what we got wrong, but don't point any bones at us. Actually, stay there. From there, tell us what we got wrong. Actually, email us. At the Haunted Heart Podcast at gmail.com.
Podcast at gmail.com.
No bone attachments. Thank you. Not interested in that.
Nope.
Yeah. I think that's Australia. It's so hard to do like one episode on
there
fucking
will
Australia.
definitely be like we'll circle
There's
back like
so
eventually.
much cool shit going on there.
I have always said that I would be like too chicken shit to actually go.
I've been there. I have had a layover in the Sydney airport, but I didn't get to leave the airport, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I was there for a trip to New Zealand, but I didn't spend much time in Australia. Been there for a layover.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely have to go back because Australia has like some pretty awesome like their own like creatures. Like there's so much more going into the realm of the dream time,
and there's a shitload of like true crime stuff. There's so
paranormal
much
stuff as well.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some really cool paranormal stuff. So I mean, I definitely see us like coming back in the future to Australia.
Yeah. Australia, you a cool motherfucker.
Australia, we love you.
We do.
We love you.
Hopefully you're still here with us.
I hope so.
Hopefully we didn't fucking lose you.
I hope so. I really want to fucking bloom an onion right now.
Oh my God.
Went this whole episode.
We almost made it all the fucking way through.
I went this whole episode.
Jesus. Fuck.
I went this whole episode But I'm actually honestly fucking craving a damn bloomin' onion right now.
All right, let's go get you one.
All right, let's go.
Until then, I guess we have to sign off. Come hang out with us on Twitter at The Haunted Heart. Come hang out with us on Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast. Email us at thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. Join our closed Facebook group. It's a lot of fun over there. It's seriously an incredible group of people. You guys are fucking hilarious. You cracked me up with serial killer memes this week. Keep them coming. And until next time.
Until next time,
Stay spooky.